Hello, my wonderful students. Today we're opening a very special book together. It's called Focus on What Matters, written by Darius Foroux. And here's something interesting before we even start. The author didn't wake up one day feeling calm and wise. He found this philosophy called Stoicism back in 2014, during a hard, difficult time in his life. Years later, in 2020, locked inside his home during the pandemic, he sat down and wrote 70 short letters. 70 small pieces of advice about how to live well, even when life feels noisy and out of control. This book is not long, it's not complicated, but it's full of simple, powerful ideas. And today, we're going to walk through 5 of the most important ones, straight from the book itself, with real quotes, real stories, and real lessons you can use starting today. Let's begin with where this whole book actually comes from. Before we continue, I have something that might really help you. If you're enjoying these lessons but sometimes feel like you need more practice, more structure, or someone to guide you personally, I've created the complete English fluency system just for that. Inside, you'll find everything organized in one place: premium lessons, English books, worksheets, speaking practice, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and much more. No more jumping from one random video to another. And the best part? You're not learning alone. Whenever you have a question or need help, you can contact me directly. I'll be there to support you throughout your English journey. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced learner, this program will help you build real confidence and make consistent progress. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, you'll find the link in the description. Now, let's get back to today's lesson. Chapter 1. A letter written 2,000 years late. Here's something you might not expect. Darius Foroux didn't invent this book's format. He borrowed it from a Roman philosopher who died almost 2,000 years ago. That philosopher's name was Seneca. And here's his story, because it matters for understanding this whole book. Seneca was rich. He was powerful. He was one of the most important men in Rome, an advisor to the Emperor Nero himself. For most of his life, he had money, status, and influence. But near the end of his life, everything changed. He lost his political power. He stepped away from public life. And then, tragically, Nero accused him of plotting against him and ordered Seneca to end his own life. Seneca accepted this calmly, without fighting it. But here's the part that really matters. In those final years, after losing his power, while living a much simpler life, traveling, reflecting, Seneca wrote his best work. He wrote over 100 letters to a friend named Lucilius, a man who, like a lot of us today, was busy, distracted, and chasing pleasure instead of meaning. Seneca's letters were gentle reminders. Slow down, think clearly, focus on what actually matters. Foroux read those letters centuries later, and they changed how he saw his own life. So when he sat down to write his own book, he used the exact same format. Short letters, simple language, real advice, one idea at a time. He even organized the whole book into 2 big parts, which he calls the inner world and the outer world. The inner world is about your own mind, your emotions, your thoughts, how you make decisions. The outer world is about everything outside of you: other people, money, your career, and the hard, unexpected moments life throws at you. Why does this background matter for you as a viewer right now? Because it tells you something important about this book before you even open the first page. This isn't a book written by someone who had life figured out from day one. It's a book written by someone who found real answers during a hard time, using ideas from a man who found his own clarity only after losing almost everything. That's not a small detail. That's actually the whole point of Stoicism. You don't need perfect conditions to think clearly. Sometimes, the hardest moments in your life are exactly when the clearest ideas arrive. So as we go through the next 4 chapters, keep this in mind. Every idea we're about to cover isn't just a nice quote for social media. It's something both Seneca and Foroux actually lived through, in their own difficult moments, long before they wrote it down for the rest of us to read. If you're going through something hard right now, work stress, confusion about your future, a difficult year, this book and this video might land differently for you, because that's exactly who it was written for. Chapter 2. You are an actor, not the director. One of the most powerful ideas in this book comes from an old Stoic teaching, one that Foroux quotes almost directly. It goes something like this. Think of yourself as an actor in a play. The play might be short. It might be long. That's not your decision. Your role might be rich or poor or something in between. That's not your decision either. Your only real job as the actor is to play your role as well as you possibly can. Let's slow down, because this idea can feel a little strange at first. Most of us spend huge amounts of energy trying to control things we simply can't control. The weather, other people's opinions, what happens in the news, whether someone likes us, whether a plan works out exactly the way we imagined. And every time something outside our control doesn't go our way, we feel frustrated or anxious or upset. The book's message here is refreshingly simple. Stop fighting for control over things that were never yours to control in the first place. You don't choose your role in the play of life. You don't get to decide every outcome. But you do control one thing completely: how well you perform the part you've actually been given. Think about your own life for a second. Maybe you didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose your family, your first language, or the economy you grew up in. You didn't choose certain hard things that happened to you. None of that was ever in your control. But how you respond today? How much effort you put into learning something new, like English right now while watching this video? How kindly you treat the people around you? That part is completely yours. This is where the book becomes genuinely useful, not just poetic. Foroux applies this old idea to modern, everyday frustration. Stuck in traffic? Not in your control. How you react to being stuck in traffic, staying calm instead of getting angry? Completely in your control. Someone criticizes you unfairly online or at work. Their opinion isn't something you can control. Whether you let that opinion ruin your entire day, that part is yours to decide. There's a quiet kind of freedom hidden in this idea, once it really sinks in. So much of our stress comes from trying to manage things, people, outcomes, the future, that were simply never ours to manage. The book argues that real peace doesn't come from finally getting control over your entire life. It comes from finally accepting which parts were never yours to control and putting all your energy into the one part that always was. Your own effort, your own attitude, your own next action. So here's something to try today. Next time something frustrating happens, big or small, pause for 3 seconds and ask yourself one simple question. Is this actually something I can control? If the honest answer is no, you can let a little bit of that tension go, because you're only truly responsible for how you play your part, not for writing the entire play. Chapter 3. What Seneca really understood about money. Here's a line from the book that might surprise you, especially in a world that constantly tells us more money automatically means more happiness. Quoting Seneca directly, the book shares this: "The man who needs wealth is afraid of it, and no man enjoys an asset that is a source of trouble. He is eager to add something to it, and while he is concentrating on the increase, he has forgotten to use it." Let's slow down and really unpack that, Because it's saying something sharper than it first appears. Seneca isn't saying money is bad. Remember, he himself was one of the wealthiest men in Rome for much of his life. He's saying something more specific. When you need wealth, when your sense of safety and self-worth depends completely on having more of it, that wealth stops bringing you peace. Instead, it brings a new kind of fear. Fear of losing it, fear of not having enough, fear that drives you to keep adding more and more and more without ever actually stopping to enjoy what you already have. The book expands on this with a simple but honest observation. When people believe being rich is so important that their entire life depends on it, they'll do almost anything to get more money. And in that constant chase, something strange happens. They forget the original reason they wanted money in the first place. Wasn't it supposed to buy freedom, comfort, time with people they love? Instead, the chasing itself becomes the goal, and the actual enjoying part quietly disappears. Think about how this shows up in ordinary daily life, not just for millionaires. Maybe it's checking your bank balance 5 times a day out of anxiety. Maybe it's working extra, exhausting hours for money you don't even have time to spend because you're always working. Maybe it's feeling like you can never quite relax financially, no matter how much you actually have saved, because there's always a bigger number that feels like enough. That restless, never satisfied feeling is exactly what Seneca was warning Lucilius about 2,000 years ago, and it's exactly what Foroux is reminding us about today. This doesn't mean the book is against ambition, or working hard, or wanting a better financial future. That would be a strange message from a self-help book. What it's actually against is treating money as the single measurement of a good life, letting your peace of mind rise and fall entirely with your bank account, instead of building a sense of security that comes from something steadier. Your skills, your character, your relationships, your ability to handle hard times. Here's a simple, honest question worth asking yourself after reading this chapter of the book. If your income never changed again, not a single dollar more, could you still build a genuinely good life with what you have right now? If the honest answer feels uncomfortable, that discomfort is worth sitting with for a moment, because that's exactly the discomfort Seneca was pointing toward all those centuries ago, and it's still just as relevant today. Chapter 4. Stop living for everyone else's approval. There's a line in this book that hits surprisingly hard once you really think about it. Too many of us listen too much to what others say and think. In our endless quest to please the people in our lives, we become the product of what others want. Read that last part again. We become the product of what others want. Not our own choices, not our own values. A product shaped piece by piece by everyone else's opinions, until very little of the original us is actually left. Think honestly about your own week. How many small decisions did you make, not because you truly wanted to, but because you were worried about what someone else might think? Maybe you agreed to something you didn't have time for because saying no felt uncomfortable. Maybe you stayed quiet about an opinion you actually held strongly because you didn't want to cause tension. Maybe you've chosen an entire career path, partly because it looked impressive to your family or your community, even if some quieter part of you wanted something different. The book doesn't suggest that other people's opinions don't matter at all, or that you should ignore everyone around you. That would be a lonely, extreme way to live. Instead, it points to something more precise. Your self-respect should be built on things that genuinely cannot be taken away from you. Your own values, your own effort, your own character, rather than on constantly shifting approval from people around you, which can change based on their mood, their situation, or their own insecurities, none of which you control. This connects directly back to the actor in a play idea from Chapter 2. If your sense of worth depends entirely on applause from the audience, you'll spend your whole life anxiously watching their faces instead of actually playing your role well. But if your sense of worth comes from knowing you're playing your part with real honesty and effort, the audience's reaction, while still nice to receive, stops being the thing that decides whether your day was good or bad. The book also touches on something called authenticity, being the same person in every situation, instead of constantly adjusting who you are depending on who's watching. Think about how exhausting it is to be one version of yourself at work, another version with your family, another version online. That constant shifting isn't just tiring. According to the book, it slowly disconnects you from your own values because you're spending so much energy managing everyone else's perception that you stop checking in with what you actually think and feel. Here's a small, honest exercise to try after watching this. Think of one recent decision you made mainly to please someone else, even though it didn't fully sit right with you. Not to judge yourself for it, we've all done this constantly, it's deeply human. Just notice it. Notice how it felt afterward. And next time a similar moment comes up, ask yourself one simple, freeing question. What would I choose here if nobody else's opinion existed at all? You don't have to always act on that answer, but knowing it, honestly, is the first real step toward becoming the author of your own life, instead of a product shaped entirely by everyone else's expectations. Chapter 5. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. We're ending with a line so many readers of this book quote as their favorite. History doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. It's a short sentence, but it holds a surprisingly comforting idea, especially for anyone going through something hard right now. What does it actually mean? It means the exact same event probably won't happen to you twice, in the exact same way. But the pattern, the shape, the feeling, the type of challenge, often does return, again and again, throughout life and throughout human history. You'll face disappointment more than once. You'll face uncertainty more than once. You'll face moments where things don't go the way you planned more than once. And here's the comforting part. So has every single person who came before you. So has every person alive today. So will every person who comes after you. There's real relief in that idea if you let it sink in. When something difficult happens, it's easy to feel like you're the only one facing it, like your struggle is uniquely unfair. But this book reminds us, gently, that hard times are not a personal failure or a sign that something's wrong with your life specifically. They're simply part of the pattern every human life follows. The details change. The rhyme stays the same. This connects to another honest, comforting line from the book. No matter what happens in life, you will be okay. When you can go through life that way, nothing will have the power to hold your mind captive. That's not a promise that hard things won't happen. Stoicism never promises that. It's something steadier and more useful, a reminder that you have survived difficult chapters before, and that capacity to get through hard things doesn't disappear just because a new difficulty shows up. The book also offers something a little unexpected in this final section. Instead of just talking about surviving hard times, it talks about how you treat other people during good times too. There's a line about celebrating other people's success as if it were your own, instead of feeling jealous or threatened by it. The book argues this isn't just a nice, polite thing to do. It actually makes you stronger, because it frees you from a constant, exhausting habit of comparing your progress to everyone else's. Put these ideas together, and you get the real heart of this whole book, not just this final chapter. Focus on what you can actually control. Build your self-worth on things nobody can take away from you. Remember that struggle is a shared human rhythm, not a personal punishment. And when good things happen to other people, let yourself feel genuinely glad for them, because that lightness is part of a well-lived life too. So here's your final thought to carry with you after this video. Whatever chapter of life you're in right now, a hard one, a calm one, or somewhere in between, you're not writing a completely new story. You're living a familiar rhyme that countless people have lived through before you and gotten through. That doesn't make your struggle smaller. It just means you're not facing it as alone as it might feel. Focus on what matters, play your part well, and trust that this chapter too will find its rhyme. See task progress for longer tasks. Focus _on_what_matters.mdy_strong_people_learn_to_be_alone.md connectors web search.